Welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. And today's topic, out of control tipping. Maybe some other places. Not even on the best day of comparison. As some personnel know, that's nothing wrong with the tippiness. Just utilizing this example within Americanism, nothing wrong with that. If you provide, if the particular service, particular person, in the restaurants, other places that are known to have a tipping culturalness, there's nothing wrong with giving a tipness, a decent tip for good service. The problem is that when you have numbers of more and more personnel that are getting a little greedy and thinking it should be obligatory to just tip regardless for bad service or otherwise, right? And the thing about it is insult to numbers of the good numbers of personnel in those industries who, hey, day in and day out, who are sitting there providing great service and various types of the serviceness of industries and other places, right? Now the thing about it is when you start talking some reality and stuff like that, you do have some personnel that'll be like, but wait a minute now. Do not people think, that regardless, people work very hard in those industries regardless? Oh, so you're saying that 1000% of each person in the serviceness of industry works hard? Well, yes.
Sorry, Kevin Bacon wasn't in Footloose.
What? Of course he was.
No, he wasn't. You lose.
Of course he was. He was the star.
Nope, you're wrong. Look it up.
I don't have to look it up. It's common knowledge. He was on the cover of People magazine when the movie. Everyone knows Kevin Bacon was the star of Footloose. It was a huge movie. He was the lead. No.
Now, I know it's a funny thing on that. It's the symbology of that, right? Because when you present real information, that you have some personnel that be denial mode when it's about taking away the effects of when someone wants to try to play little sly games, right? Now, again, if you type in what country or countries provide the most tipping, right, in the globalness, while it is difficult to definitively say which country tips the most due to varying cultural norms and contexts, the United States is known for its high tipping expectations, especially in restaurants and service industries. Oh, by the way, okay. I see a good brother, Tanzania Tony. Salute to that brother. For people who are interested, this brother's in Tanzania. Is married to a great wife, feminine. She seems to be very down to earth, and it's about her, about her husband. Good brother. I would tell anybody, man, go to the brother, Traveling Tony, uh, Traveling Tony, YouTube channel, stuff like that. Great, good brother on that. So let me go ahead and play this particular video on this.
Americans are being asked to tip in more places and for more services than ever before. A majority now thinks that tipping and the tipping culture has gotten out of hand. The National News Desk, Janae Bowens, is here with a closer look at this issue. Good morning to you, Janae. What'd you find?
Good morning, Jen. Tipping fatigue is at an all-time high, with 90% of Americans saying tipping culture has gotten out of control. Folks are being asked to tip in unexpected places like gas stations, coffee shops, and even self-checkout machines with no human interaction.
You can't do it everywhere, and with these economic pressures, I feel like more and more places are expecting you to do it.
Wallet Hub found 9 in 10 people say tipping culture has gotten out of control. That's up from 75% last year. And 3 in 10 Americans will actually tip less if there's a tip suggestion screen, and in some cases might not tip at all because they're so offended by it.
It's a voluntary gesture, that you show appreciation for good service, and now it's almost like a tax or a surcharge.
Right now, there's a bipartisan push in Washington for no federal taxes on tips. And about 20 states are also considering eliminating the state income tax on tips. Not everyone is on board.
I think people are pretty much fed up with the whole concept of tipping.
Mm, 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 mm. Some people are fed up with tipping or certain sectionalities of obligatory tipping within sections of America. This article talks about also why do Americans tip so much? The one this applies to, despite common complaints. You heard, in that particular video clip, numbers of Americans are actually tipping more now, which provides many. This particular place, which provides many of the iPads used for payments, will report a 16.5% rise in total tips at full service restaurants in the last quarter of the previous year compared to the year before. At quick service restaurants, the increase was 15.9%. This particular data from this restaurant software company showed that diners were still tipping around 15 to 20%. For full service eateries, average tips remained constant at 19.6% in the second and third quarters. However, quick service restaurants arrived at a slight drop in the average tip percentage, going from 16.9% to 16.8%. All that old stuff, regardless. It's getting ridiculous where like in this situation says requesting tips at self-checkouts. Almost 20% of restaurants, 20% of Americans, the ones it applies to, now give tips for a wider range of services. About half of them admit to tipping when they wouldn't have before. Let me read this again. It said almost 20% of Americans, the ones it applies to, now give tips for a wider range of services. About half of them admit to tipping when they wouldn't have before. Mm-mm. See, there are people who study this kind of stuff. They study the mindsets and the marketingness, the one this applies to, of how to get more resources out of certain personnel. And relating to this situation, that you go upon in a slick way to do certain things to try to get people's mentality to feel guilty if they don't really want to tip within certain sections of America, right? Oh, it's a slick game. It's a very slick game on that, right? I mean, like if I've seen at certain stores, should we say, won't go into all that, but certain stores, people know, like certain discount stores, and they have I've seen where they have like kind of a tip jar thing as well, or in certain type of fast food restaurants, the ones it applies to, you see certain times they have a tip jar right there. And some little stores, some little mom and pop stores, the ones it applies to, the ones who know who do that, they may have a tip jar. The people who know what I'm talking about, they be like, what in the mess is this? Right. And then those things start to kind of spread themselves out to different places, right? And some people know what I'm talking about, right? They can be traveling over that place, or they can travel that place, or this particular industry or that place. And it's almost like people who know they're not paying those workers a certain type of higher wage. All that old generic, oh my goodness, if you just pay somebody a living wage, stop, right? That's very generic, right? Because collectively, how many companies are not going to be trying to gigantically raise somebody's wage up to cut their profits, then they did to raise up their prices? Stop. There is a fine line of different things, right? But it is a disgusting tactic where there are certain employers who know they are that will cut away certain, should we say, wages, and behind closed doors, they're sitting there saying, we ain't worried about it. We'll just get some people to sit there, and we already know that, numbers of people, certain tourists, the ones who do this, we already know that they're going to make up for various wages that we're going to pay very lower wages to certain type of workers, and at the same time, certain type of touristy and other place people, they're going to make up for that and stuff like that, while we're still making record breaking profits. Mm-mm. But then people will be like, some people be like, they see nothing, they hear nothing, or they know nothing. And will still complain about, oh my goodness, the tipping culture. In some places, some people know they put that automatic gratuity, 15%, 18% on there, which depending on who you talk to, that's a good thing or bad thing. Because then does that sit there and permeate less great customer service? Or does that make customer service go down on that? It depends on how a person looks at it. But I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP Show.